What is going on, guys? Gannon here, and today I'm not making a One Piece video. This is going to be my first video on the channel that's actually concerning one of my favorite other anime series that's very long running, JoJo's Bizarre Adventures. I love JoJo. I've pretty much read all the parts and watched them except for part 5. I've intentionally not read part 5. Or I've tried to avoid learning everything about it because I wanted to be able to look forward to JoJo Fridays again. But with that, today I'm going to be talking about my favorite stand in the entire series. Now, if you are planning to actually watch or read JoJo, I would totally click off this video because this stand is coming from Part 7 Steel Ball Run, and that is the best part in the whole series, in my opinion, and this is going to contain major spoilers, so if you're not interested in spoiling the best part of JoJo, in fact, you should just quickly go read that part, find it, probably only take you a couple days, come back to this video, and tell me how much you fucking loved it. But with that, guys, let's talk about my favorite stand in the whole series, Dirty Deeds Done Dirt Cheap. Alrighty, guys, Dirty Deeds Done Dirt Cheap, or if you're going off of the Americanized sort of translation, which is hilarious, Filthy Acts Done at a Reasonable Price, debuted in the manga at chapter 78 of the best part in all of JoJo, Part 7 Steel Ball Run. It is the stand to the main antagonist, Funny Valentine, who happens to be the President of the United States, and like I said before, is the main antagonist villain of Part 7. Dirty Deeds Done Cheap on paper, and even when reading the manga, is kind of hard to understand. But on the surface, it is an awesome, really cool stand with an awesome design. It's very intimidating, and it's just probably my favorite villain stand in the entire series because of its ability. The most basic explanation that I could give is that D4C, Dirty Deeds Done Dirt Cheap, is able to allow the user to exist in an area where there is multiple universes. It also allows the user to travel between this multiverse and do a whole bunch of very overpowered shit. Now, before I get into actually explaining the depth of that ability, you need to keep in mind that even though this stand has a bunch of OP abilities, it also has very overpowered stand stats. D4C has an A in all stand stats except for range because it is one of those close range stands, and it gets a C later in developmental potential when it unlocks its ultimate ability at the end of the series. D4C basically allows Funny Valentine to travel between dimensions as long as he goes in between two objects. These two objects could be like a door and a wall, even little particles of dust above him in the ground, and he's often seen throwing an American flag over him. One time, I believe it happened in the manga, and then it happens all the time in the video game. But once Funny Valentine is in these parallel dimensions, he can interact with anything within those dimensions, meaning that he could pull people from those dimensions into the main dimension, and the main dimension is where the corpse parts reside. Corpse parts are a very important part to the JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Part 7 story. I'm not going to go into that, but basically there is a main core universe in which D4C resides. Now, there can only be one D4C at a time. There can't be multiple ones. He can't go to another dimension and grab another D4C and bring it in. But what Funny Valentine can do is whenever he takes lethal damage, he can go to another dimension, get a Funny Valentine from that dimension, pull it in, and then D4C will then be transferred to that Funny Valentine. His consciousness will not exactly go to that new one. His memories will, but it's like that one Funny Valentine really does die. It's just that his memory's gone to some other one, so it's not like he's transferring between bodies. Like, the original Funny Valentine has probably long since been dead. Even though that isn't the original Funny Valentine, no matter what universe, always has the desire to obtain the corpse parts, so it doesn't really matter which one D4C goes to. Just know that Funny Valentine could basically always switch up and get to another Funny Valentine, and there's been parts in the series where he's brought back 8 Funny Valentines to just beat on somebody, totally gang up on him. So with that being said, understand that that's really not the only thing it could do. Like I said, he can go in and out of these universes, also bring anything he wants back. There have been points where he's brought in other characters who had OP abilities from separate universes. But one thing he can do is bring in somebody from the core universe, bring them into another universe, and since they don't have this thing called, residual gravity to hold them in another universe, that's basically what D4C's ability is it basically gives Funny Valentine the ability to not only travel through the universes, but have a force of central gravity so that he remains stable in the other ones. This is kind of hard to explain, but I don't know, just try to follow as best as you can. So if he were to bring an enemy that he was facing from the core universe into another universe, and then he brought them with the version of themselves from that universe. So let's say I have a guy, his name is Tom, and I want to kill Tom. I bring him to the other universe, and I get him to other universe Tom as close as possible, and since the original Tom doesn't have that, you know, constant gravity holding him, as soon as he comes in very close proximity of the other Tom, he just fucking explodes. He ceases to exist, because no two copies of one person could exist in the same universe. It just messes up with the whole timeline, and that is just a very sick and awesome way to deal with your enemies, and that's something that D4C totally can do. Not only that, but there have been times where D4C can actually bring only half of somebody into another universe and kind of trap them, you know, like, oh my gosh, only half of my body's in this universe and half of my body's in the other one. He could totally do that. Also, some way, somehow, this was the most confusing part of the series. I really still don't understand. When D4C was first introduced, it had the ability to project other universes so that other normal civilians could see, but this really was never expanded upon. I'm pretty sure old senile Araki just totally forgot to explain this, so that's fine. This shit happens all the time. Don't even worry about it. But that is basically kind of the extent of what D4C, aside from being a very strong physical stand. Also, he has his multiverse abilities, which are extremely, extremely powerful. But he also gets this ability later in the series called Love Train. When he eventually does get the corpse parts, he projects it onto Lucy Steele, a character. She gets a stand, and that stand, in turn, blesses D4C to have another upgraded ability called Love Train. Now, Love Train is the most OP shit you can ever imagine. So D4C basically, as long as he remains within this line of light projected by Love Train, any lethal attack or any attack in general directed at Funny Valentine or D4C will then be deflected and then transported far away where those misfortunes would affect somebody else. So imagine I was going to attack Funny Valentine, I was going to throw a fork at him. This fork would then just not even fucking hit Funny Valentine, just diverge, and then that damage would then happen to somebody maybe 6 miles away where they step on a fork. That's basically how Love Train works. I don't want to delve super deep into that because that is like a super major spoiler of the part, and kind of the explanation for how that works is a super big spoiler, so I do recommend that you go ahead and read Chapter 7 to get a better understanding of Love Train and that whole situation. But guys, anyways, this is kind of like something that I'm testing out. I'm trying to delve into other series that I actually really enjoy watching. This has been a brief synopsis on my favorite character in the JoJo's Bizarre Adventure series, and I hope you've enjoyed. Please leave a comment down below telling me if there's anything else you'd like me to cover, and I will have to see you guys in the next one.